Right now, my signature program, Scribble School, is open for enrollment, but not for long. This is the robust program that will take you from knowing nothing or a little bit about hieroglyphs to reading the common text you're going to actually see in museums, online, and on trips to Egypt. And there's a very special bonus available right now for the first 25 people who sign up by Friday, May 15th. They'll get the special bonus Hieroglyph a Day planner. This planner is not available anywhere else. It's not sold separately. This is the only way to get it. So you'll want to check out all the details and grab your spot in Scribble School at scribbleschool.com. Welcome to Voices of Ancient Egypt, the podcast for people who don't just want to learn about ancient Egypt, but want to understand it on a deeper, more meaningful level. I'm Melinda Nelsonhurst, an Egyptologist with a PhD in the field and years of experience teaching at the university level, working in Egypt, and training students around the world to read real ancient Egyptian texts. I've spent decades studying this civilization in a traditional academic setting so you don't have to, and so you can access knowledge that's usually locked behind academic walls. This podcast brings ancient Egyptian history, beliefs, and language to life, and shows you that learning hieroglyphs is possible, no matter your age, background, or schedule. So whether you want to read hieroglyphs in museums, on social media, or on your next trip to Egypt, you'll find the tools, stories, and encouragement to make it real right here. Let's hear the voices of the ancient world together. Hello, and welcome to the Voices of Ancient Egypt podcast. In this episode, we'll be featuring an interview with one of my students. This is part of a series I'm calling What's Working with Learning Hieroglyphs, where I interview students of mine to find out what strategies and tactics they're using to make tons of progress with hieroglyphs. These are real people with busy lives, commitments, and also a whole lot of unexpected challenges in life. And we're going to get down in the trenches with them and hear how they've been able to learn to read everything from common pharaohs' names to literature, letters, medical texts, and even the Book of the Dead. Let's jump in and hear what's really working for these real people. Thank you so much for joining me today, Nicky. Would you please introduce yourself? Just tell us a little bit about you and what brought you to studying hieroglyphs.
Oh, okay, that's a good one. So basically, my name is Nicky. I'm 27 years old. I had my birthday recently. So basically, the reason why I kind of started to become interested in hieroglyphs is because a couple of years ago, I was kind of in a bad place mentally. I was not sure which direction I wanted to go in life at all. It's kind of like, it was a bit complicated what I wanted to do. But basically, I started kind of just doing things that I normally don't do. Like, I want to give maybe a new language a try, something like that. And then I saw like a self-teaching book for hieroglyphs, basically. And that's where I started learning myself how it works. The first thing that I noticed was it was not what I expected at all. I expected it to be a bit easier, to be fair, because it's an old language and I didn't know they were this advanced. But the more that I went through the book, the more I started to enjoy actually learning it. And it kind of felt really motivating to actually see the accomplishments that came with it. Of course, because I always am more of a visual learner, I kind of started to struggle because, of course, the books are not only filled with text, but it also is like, it feels like it's too generic when it comes to following. Like if you don't understand something that's explained, you're kind of stuck. There's not really much else than the view of the person that writes it. And that's why I kind of just eventually decided to maybe look around if there were people who actually were willing to teach it, like actual schools or, like something close to it. And that's basically how I stumbled upon you, Melinda. And I saw you were actually, what's it called? About promoting, I don't want to call it promoting, but like telling that there was like a mass Skype program going on. So you can teach yourself with regular calls in case you have any questions and information. And that was kind of like a selling point for me. Of course, it's not only just massive Skype that was really good. It's Scribble School in general for people who are actually starting at level 0, basically. And I started from there just to catch up like the fundamental points, and I've been having a blast. Yeah, it's really good. It's like again, as a visual learner, I think that Master Scribes and Scribble School combined is like really well explained. It's like visual, the videos, you can look back in case you miss something. It comes with like good pages of work. And yeah, in case you still miss something, you can always like have the Slack conversations in case you have any questions, plus the calls that we have on Zoom. So yeah, it's really good. It's really motivating to actually see a progress eventually with actually someone who knows what they're doing, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I love hearing that. Yeah, because you went right into Master Scribes, of course, but like you said, you went through the Scribal School curriculum also as part of that. And even though you've done some self-study, it sounds like you found that helpful as well. And the problem you were running into before, it sounds like, was, you were learning some from books, but like you said, it was sort of an impersonal approach in terms of there was no way to ask questions or customize it for you or, clarify things and so forth. So how does this picture look now compared to then in terms of learning hieroglyphs? Like, how has it changed compared to working with a book, say, to now working in Master Scribes?
The books in the beginning, of course, they're like, oh, there's like the signs and this one, like what they mean. It's a beginning that you'll be like, okay, I can understand this if I keep doing the same questions and maybe next questions ahead, basically to kind of memorize yourself how it works. But with Master Scribes and Scribal School, when I say Master Scribes, I will just combine Scribal School in general because it feels like combined. It feels like you have much more breathing space when it comes to actually allowing yourself to memorize it. The book is basically it feels like this. If you're going on a highway, for example, like with the book, you can only go forward. You're not allowed to, go to another road or anything. You're not allowed to switch lanes. That's how the book felt to me. It's like, yeah, you go forward, but it feels very generic and you have to go forward. You cannot go, go a different road. With Scribal School and Master Scribes, it feels like you can go multiple roads ahead, basically. Like if you're stuck with this, you can go another road and take like a short, well, not shortcut, but like a smaller road in case you're stuck, and then go back to the bigger road. It's maybe a weird explanation, but it feels like you're more allowed to make mistakes. You're more allowed to have some time with it. And I just feel like in general, that schools that's probably like a big thing ahead, but I feel like schools kind of push some people a bit too harsh. And I think a lot of capable people are also kind of missing the opportunity to actually make progress in what they like, just because the school system in general is kind of, oh, you have to do this in a week, you're done. If you're not done, then I'm sorry, it's over. That's how it felt like to me with books until I kind of met you and Master Scribes.
Yeah, I love that point too about how not only can you not sort of have the flexibility to maybe work on something else and come back, but that you're expected to keep, in a lot of cases, if you're in a course or in a university program or something like that, to keep a certain pace that might not be realistic. And I think very often is not realistic for the majority of people. Because I hear that a lot from my other students too. Like if they've taken another course that maybe they liked the course okay, but the speed was just way too fast. Or it also might be that the course just took a very technical bent to it too, and that might have been a problem also. I hear that a lot though, especially like you said, with it's like, this is what we're working on this week, and if you don't get it, like too bad, we're moving on to the next thing, right? Next week. And I agree that I think a lot of people who could be really good at this are deterred by that because that kind of schedule is just not realistic, I think, for a lot of people. And that's actually something I wanted to ask you about, because sometimes I hear from people who are considering working with me, whether in Master Scribes, and they don't have a lot of time to learn hieroglyphs, or maybe they know they have some big life events coming up and they're worried that those interruptions during their time in the program would be a problem and take away from being able to make progress. And I know that for you, you've also sometimes had some time struggles and or some big life events that you've gone through during your time in the program. And so I was wondering, how have you used Master Scribes, like the curriculum, the support, etc., to help you get back on track when you need to, and just generally like keep making progress, even when, life doesn't really go according to plan?
That's a very good question. As you said before, yeah, I had sadly some personal issues, like with the family, someone passing in my family, basically, which kind of set me back. And the best advice, at least that worked for me, was to just take a step back. If you stopped learning for a little bit and you go back exactly where you stopped,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be stuck. You're going to be even less motivated to continue. What I would say is just take a few steps back. It's okay to take steps back, basically,
Mm-hmm.
and start from there and actually allow yourself to, not only to mind you refresh, but actually be happy that you're going to be motivated, but because you will kind of just realize, hey, I actually understand this now. I actually solved this question way faster than before.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you kind of are to aim for. You're not always supposed to aim for just, oh, I have to solve this, I have to solve this, I have to solve it. That's not working. At least that's not working for me. Just take a step back. That's the best I can do. And with Scribble School and Master Scribes, you can do that basically. With books, you can maybe do that, but again, with books, you have no teacher. It's very generic. And on schools, you cannot take a step back either, as far as I know. And I think for people who actually are in the same situation or similar, yeah, I definitely think that this is one of the best programs you can have, even if you're struggling with something personal. Yeah, and also don't forget also that Masterscribes also keeps updating like new questions, like new how can I call it, like new things to learn basically. Because
Mm-hmm.
again, it's a very big language to learn. But back to the point, just take a step back, and yeah, with Masterscribes, I'm very happy to just do that.
So you found that the flexibility of the program and just being able to, like you're saying, take a step back. So what you mean is like you go to maybe some lessons that were a little earlier in
Yes,
the curriculum than where you left off. And that helps you kind of build up that momentum again
yes,
and get back on track. Yeah.
yes,
And I
exactly.
know also you've really made good use of the coaching calls too, and coming when you have questions, whether it be about questions about studying and or questions about the language itself that have come up for you. What do you think has been the most helpful for you in terms of the support in that way? I know you use the coaching calls. You also ask things in Slack. How has that benefited you with your studies?
The very first thing that benefits me, of course, is that someone is listening. Because again, just going back to the book, in books you have the answer sheets, but you don't have like the middle step, like, hey, why is this answer correct, or why is your answer wrong, for example. And with the teacher, having a teacher like someone who actually looks over his shoulder is like, oh, maybe you could do this or this way. That's a good answer, but there's also this possibility, something like that. And that's not only motivating, but that's also the feeling that everyone can be at their own pace, and that's you're very understanding when it comes to that as well. Because I also in school back then, when I still had school, I had teachers that are very one-sided. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to talk bad about anyone, by the way, but it just felt very one-sided because, of course, there were people who are very good learners. And I came from a special school basically myself, where I struggled with learning. I have like a learning disability. So where it's something like this where I can take my time, and it's not like compared to other people. It's really good. And when it comes to the calls and, with asking in Slack, like any questions, it's fine because you will be heard. That's the best way I can put it. It's like, and if you're still not sure if your answer has been suggested correctly, you can always do it in a call or, re-ask your questions, because there are also very friendly people in Slack. I don't talk much in Slack, but I noticed that are very nice people who are like, oh, I found this book. Are any other people maybe interested in reading it with me? Yeah, oh, here's a nice book I found at the flea market, for example, like a cooking book. It's very nice. It's very wholesome. And I think that's a really good learning environment as well. And with having a teacher actually, looking at your answers or how you did it, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe helping with improving on it. Yeah, that's a huge win for me.
I love that. And yeah, I love everybody in Master Scribes and how they contribute. And some people really love to be on the coaching calls a lot, some in Slack, some do both. There's a variety. And so you can come with the questions you have. I know you tend to come to coaching calls with questions, although you said you watch Slack, but you don't necessarily post as much. And even I imagine you find that, even if you're not posting a lot, again, you're benefiting from others' posts, like you said,
Yes.
like people will share resources like books and things like that. And you could see texts that sometimes other people are working on also that might be outside of our curriculum, but they happen to see something in a museum or online or whatever that they share with the group to work on.
Yes.
And things of that nature.
I remember back, I think it was with Jen, where you posted a picture of a small part of the hieroglyphs. And me and Jen were kind of discussing, like, is this young one? Is this a name?
Mm-hmm.
And that was really nice because it didn't felt like both of us were just, no, I'm correct. No, I'm correct. No, we were both just kind of just laughing about it and kind of just like, Melinda, what the heck is this?
Yeah.
And that was nice. And that's kind of the learning environment I really enjoy being in. Yeah, this is my third time, I believe, that I extended with Master Scribes.
And I know you'll be back again the next cohort, which I love too. I love when people continue on and keep growing, keep learning more hieroglyphs. And like you said, I love the camaraderie in the group where you can work on stuff together. It's not competitive at all. And everybody just wants to sort of work, together. And some people don't want to jump in on that stuff, and that's totally fine too. But some people love to do that and like pull out extra text to work together. And or even some people are like doing sort of an informal book club and reading other books outside of it and things like that too. So those are all, I think, nice things about our community, that everybody's in that and they're supportive, and it has that flexibility that you can sort of focus on what you want to focus on and add in more things if you want to, and so forth. Now, you mentioned having difficulties learning in school and things like that. And that actually strikes a chord with me, and like something that I hear from people a lot too. Sometimes I hear from people who are interested in learning hieroglyphs and they're thinking about joining one of my programs, and they're concerned that maybe hieroglyphs might be too difficult for them to learn, or especially like if English is not their first language, they're concerned about whether the program would work for them because of that. And I felt like you probably could relate to this with English being your second language here. And I didn't even know about, your schooling background that you mentioned before. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about like, how were you able to overcome any of those challenges with the difficulty of hieroglyphs and or also with, learning in a language that's not your first language?
Basically, with English, sorry for the background noise, I have very loud neighbors. So basically with English itself, I kind of just, like I watched a lot of English videos and I kind of taught myself a little bit of English, how it works. Like not very, very grammar-wise, but like what does this word mean? And that's basically it. Mm-hmm. It's kind of just a bit through life. You get there eventually. Of course, talking English is always a bit difficult for me, because my head always feels like it needs to be 10 steps ahead. That's why I stutter sometimes. But when it comes to reading and listening, it's just a matter of practice. And I think the same goes for learning hieroglyphs. So basically, when I started with Scribal School, for example, I did the first page. Of course, I learned a bit in a book. But even then, when you look back at it, you do the first page. Then you're like, okay, I want to learn it. Then you do the second question. Oh, I want to learn it. And you keep doing that. But eventually you will realize that you're like, hey, I'm actually translating hieroglyphs here. And you eventually get to that eureka moment where you're like, you not only feel very motivated, but you feel very eureka, but also very proud of yourself because you're actually doing something that you never could before. And when it comes to knowing English, it's very easy. I know it sounds very, very lax to say, basically. But what I mean is everything will kind of be explained to you. It's not like you have to learn English with it. It's very like, you could even do it in your own language. It's just that the program itself is based on an English language, if that makes sense. When it comes to grammar, like I think you don't need to know very much English to do this. I think it's just I know it sounds very simple, but it's a matter of practice. And for people who are not really familiar with the English language itself, I think even for them, it will be something that goes with it as well. It's like you're not only learning hieroglyphs at that point, but also learning English. But then again, I recommend you to just take the course slowly. I don't recommend you to just go question after question. Just sit back, look what you're making, and just do it slow. Like, it's not like you have to rush through it, basically. Because, to be fair, I did it with the book, and I just realized, like, I didn't even kept anything in mind. I just rushed through the questions because I just wanted to learn. But understanding the question and actually taking it slow is the best way to learn actually something. That's how you learn.
Yeah, I love that, the taking the time with it, because I think that's important, even if you're working in your native language, to learn something new, whatever it might be, whether it's a language like Egyptian or something else, because spending the time on it, I mean, the time you sort of need to digest it, but also not rushing through it really helps with not just understanding it, but I think memory also. Our learning research really kind of bears this out in terms of when you dedicate that time to it and the effort, that your brain gets on board too with like that this is actually something that's important to you and storing it. So that makes a lot of sense that going with that pace would really work. And I think it really speaks to the flexibility of my programs like Master Scribes too. It's one of the things that I pride myself on it. I love the fact that it can fit, with any schedule basically, and whatever you have going on, because you can go at your own pace. Some people want to jump in and they want to go really fast. Maybe they have a trip coming up and they want to learn a lot, and that works with their schedule and they want to do that. And, others want to go at a slower pace and just have it sort of, be that thing that they're doing on the side that's fun and that fits in with what other obligations they have and, stuff like that. So I love that, having that flexibility and how that's worked for you, as well as so many other people in the group too. So as we wind down, I wanted to ask you one more question, because there are folks out there who are probably really considering a decision of joining us in Master Scribes for this next round and might have a lot of questions and or hesitations, which I imagine you did in the beginning as well.
Oh, yes.
When making the decision. So I was wondering, what would you say to someone who's sort of on the fence about joining? Like, they're not sure, they're thinking about it, and they want to come to a good place where they feel really good about their decision and their plan to jump in. What would you say to them?
I would advise you, if you, of course, I think it's also a bit like, how motivated are you to learn it? Because, of course, like, if you want to learn like very basic things, and I'm stretching that very bigly, then there are maybe like a very simple self-teaching book. But if you're actually serious, like you want to read like Walls on Tombs, like on paper, for example, like you want to eventually learn what's on the crown of King Tut, for example, then yeah, I heavily recommend you to do Master Scribes, because you learn the kind of understanding why we read it like this, why it's written like this. Like, you also learn a bit of history through also with the coaching calls, which is also nice, and like the insight of how it goes on your end. And yeah, I heavily recommend it. You have like the breathing space to do it. You don't need like a high PhD, for example, to only understand this. You don't need to go to university to actually learn hieroglyphs for this. This is like a university, but you're actually allowed to be heard and actually allowed to study on your time, with your own time. And yeah, that's the best way I can put it, actually.
All right. I love that, Nicky. Thank you so much for hopping on with me today to talk about your story. I really appreciate it. And you taking the time to be here. And I'm really looking forward to continuing to support you in Master Scribes.
Thank you, and thank you for being an awesome teacher. I genuinely love how things are going right now.